Greetings fanboys and fangirls, Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today I'm bringing you a review of the brand new Walmart exclusive here in the United States, Masters of the Universe Origins Mossman, Heroic Spy and Master of Camouflage. So there's certainly a lot to talk about with this figure. We've seen Mattel utilize flocking, and that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. And there's also quite a bit to talk about in terms of the release itself, and maybe what we can look forward to or not look forward to in terms of availability. But if you love Masters of the Universe like I do, or any other nostalgic toy lines, then you'll definitely want to subscribe to the channel before we get started. I do new videos all the time, and I always love it when we get new subscribers. Also, don't forget to like the video, because that really does help and is extremely encouraging. Be sure to comment down below when the video is done, letting me know what you think about this brand new Mossman. And with that out of the way, let's begin. So looking at Mossman here, this is definitely a kind of latter day release for Origins. We're getting a little bit closer to finishing up those vintage characters. I think we're going to see a whole lot more things like this, where there's lots of exclusives. We're already seeing the lines transition to a lot of exclusive kind of deployment. And I think Mossman is probably a good indication of what we have to look forward to, whether you like it or not. You know, it's coming. Just looking, we definitely have a packaging that's different than anything we've seen so far in the brand. I have to excuse all the reflections of my lights here. It looks like he's in the club. But seriously, this is a box, and I definitely like this. It makes me wish that all of the figures were packaged this way. I know that's a little unrealistic, but I would certainly like to see something like that. You can see Mossman right there inside. At the top, we have beautiful new artwork of Mossman, with all sorts of little bonuses and other characters in there. Not really sure who that is back behind him, whether that's a friend or a foe. There's just all kinds of fun stuff in the background, including the Eternian Towers. Wouldn't it have been sad if it hadn't made the funding goal and it appeared on all this packaging for like the next year? But they were, I guess, hoping surely it would. And you can see on the side, and this is really cool, I can only hope that this might be the next crowdfund. I mean, really, truly, this would be something I would really be interested in getting. And I certainly hope that it's the next one that they consider. And that's, let's face it, it's the only way they'll be able to do it. But I would back it in a heartbeat. Back here, we can see that Mossman has stumbled upon some absolutely vile snake men. Maybe this one is new and uses Lady Slither's kind of bottom part. Kind of looks like that Egyptian-themed Filmation villain. And it's interesting, though. It's like a Snake Man version of that character. And you can see that it's just a beautiful painting. They're not trying to sell any other products. It's just a gorgeous, suitable for framing shot. Down here, we do have the barcode in case you're looking at your local Walmart. You can see it's referred to as a collector's edition, and moss like fur. It smells like pines. We'll go ahead and get him out of the box. And here he is out of the packaging, Mossman. As you might expect, he does include a mini comic. Unfortunately, it's kind of braced into the packaging behind the figure, and kind of is a little bent up. So good luck to you on yours, but as you can see, mine's gonna have to be pressed under a book or something. But it's called Poison from the Stars. I've not read it yet, but the art looks really fun. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with that. Here we have Mossman in all of his mossy glory. And indeed, this is a fully flocked, fully articulated Masters of the Universe figure. And I'm very happy about that, because I definitely think that there was a possibility that this figure could have been compromised due to all of the flocking and things like that. But I'm happy to report that that has not been the case here. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, there's no avoiding it. We definitely need to make a comparison to the original Mossman, the Mossman many of you all grew up with, but certainly not the one that I grew up with. Of course, as many of you who watch the channel frequently are aware, I'm too young to have grown up with the original Masters. I got into Masters as a result of the 2000X series and Classics. When I was born, Masters was on its last legs in '87. So for that reason, sometimes I don't think my views are as influenced by the classic toys, and it's just a matter of perspective. Now I'll just put in a picture here because, of course, I don't have them. Just so you can see, he's quite different, and we should definitely talk about that. This Mossman seems like, you know, he's friendly. He's got this absolutely lovable look on his face. This looks like Sasquatch's friendly cousin right here. I know that he looks sort of ferocious in some angles, but in other angles, he looks like he's saying hello or he's smiling. So it's kind of funny, kind of stuck between those. I think that there's one thing that's doing it here, and that's the eye paint gives him very, very large irises, very large pupils. I think if he had white eyes, he would probably be kind of horrifying. So he's ferocious, but he also seems so friendly. And you know what? That's kind of a cool mix for a character that's supposed to be as heroic as Mossman. You know, he is ferocious, but he does seem like, you know, the main character of a children's TV show on PBS. I don't know. So I like this. To me, he's instantly, I looked at him and I thought, well, that's a feller right there. Yeah, that original figure looks sort of horrifying. I mean, let's just be honest. It's which I think is cool. But this one is just absolutely very aesthetically pleasing, especially when you look at the flocking. Now, it may be hard to see from this far off, but if we go in a little closer, you'll be able to see that the flocking is all sorts of, I don't know, it's like a blend of browns and greens and a little bit of maybe a little bit of yellow in there. And it's just this great variety of colors, but it is really nice. It feels good to the touch. It feels a lot more pleasant than most flocking that I handle. It's just kind of smooth, almost like a pet or something. Even on the back, it looks really nice. And that blend of colors just doing a wonderful job of highlighting the beauty of the sculpt, and it's just really nice. So I applaud them for that. And I think it's also worth pointing out right away that nothing is really that inhibited on this figure, and believe it or not, he's still completely modular. So you can mix and match these pieces with whoever you want. I mean, you know, I'm not sure why you would, but you definitely can. The other thing, like I was saying, was the articulation is all there. You can go all the way around with the head. Nothing's being held back or anything. With the arms, you can even go all the way in. And there's plenty of clearance on the inside to where there's not a bunch of flocking going everywhere. I mean, you can look at that again. You would have seen flocking just disappearing if it wasn't in there really well. You can also see that we have some rotations that aren't doing anything to upset it. And wisely, they've chosen not to flock the internals or the joints here. If they had, it would have been disastrous. Down here, we still have our hinges at the hands, and we have a waist swivel. We have splits. Now, this is the part that concerns me the most because I feel like the most friction is going to be generated by doing that, and also front kicks. So that's probably about as far as I want to go, to be honest with you. I think that in regular Origins figures, you'll see sometimes that if you have the legs out for a while, setting down or in a vehicle, it will make big impressions in the legs just from that crotch piece. So I don't really want to do that and risk anything falling apart, but it didn't, so it's holding up. You can also see down here at the knees that they work just fine. There isn't any inhibition right there, and you can also see they rotate. I was very surprised, for whatever reason, to see that the shin joint still works right there where you have the rotation. You have plenty of hinge, just like always, no limit on that. And you can also get plenty of ankle rocker pivot. It's probably a little tighter than it usually is because of the flocking, but you can still flat foot lots and lots of poses. So it works. See everybody's favorite feller right there, able to flat foot those wide stances. So it looks really good. It's also funny that my background is full of moss, and, you know, I don't know, is he just gonna like blend in? He is camouflage. This figure costs $40, which is, you know, it's a little steep for an Origins figure, but they try to make it a little worth it by giving you several accessories. First off, you have Mossman's classic kind of club, which is just, you know, an old reused accessory, so this is very accurate to the original. It's done in this nice brown. He sometimes has a little bit of a hard time holding this. I feel like the grip isn't very strong. He also comes with this brown mace, which I think is a cool addition. Again, that grip is a little loosey-goosey on there, but, you know, it's not too bad. He holds it well enough. He does come with an alternative left hand, so if you do want a gripping hand for the other side, you can get that. He is equipped with just an open hand right there. He does come with this armor. Now, this is a replication of the armor that was from an accessory set that for whatever reason, lots of people decided to put on their Mossman back in the day. So in order to compensate for that, Mattel has included those pieces with the chest piece here and the bicep pieces right here. And it does include this cool alternate head. Now I am happy that we get this one because this is very ferocious. And what it does is it simulates the, well, it's the same sculpt as the Beastman head that we got in the Lords of Power version. Speaking of heads, I feel like we definitely need to talk about this one because if I'm not mistaken, I could be, this might be the first time we've gotten a version of the Beastman head, and this is the original Beastman from Origins, that actually simulates the original retro figure. Because you remember his mouth was closed here, almost like to give you something a little different. And here the mouth is open like the original. Would not surprise me if we get one of these pretty soon using this head sculpt. So there you go. So here's Mossman with that more simian-like head from the concept artwork. And I really like this look. It's definitely not exactly what I would think of with Mossman and makes him seem a little brutish in a way. This head works really well for a villain like that version of Beastman, but you know, it's a little bit tougher sell, I think, on Mossman here. So I like it, but you know, it's not exactly what I have in mind for the character. This is a good time to go ahead and put on the other armor pieces he comes with. And for whatever reason, I feel like the visual of him with the yellow Beastman armor on makes this whole thing a lot more palatable with that head. It almost feels like something's missing without this stuff on. But I think once you do include it, it looks pretty nice, honestly. So that's definitely a cool look. I think the one thing I worry about is people like sliding these on the biceps. Of course, they have these little spots where you can just undo them like that. But I want you to look. You can already see that just by having it on for a few seconds, it kind of made like a little indentation in the arm. I wouldn't honestly leave this armor on for very long because I don't know what it would do to the flocking. Now, I may just be crazy there and it wouldn't do anything, but you know, I don't know. Better safe than sorry. And I realize now that I believe I had those bicep guards on there backwards. So here they are without the fasteners on the front. You can see that they could be turned if you alternate them to where you don't see those connections. I think rather than the Lords of Power Beastman head, I think I would have rather had this Beastman head flocked as the alternate head. That's just me. I've switched out his hand now on his left, and it has a lot better grip than the other, which tells me this one probably just got stretched and warped out from being packaged like that. So I'd say if you heat this up and close it a little and put cold water on it, it'll be great. But here he is with the more retro-y Mossman head, and I feel this is the best look for the character. That the figure looks its very best when you have it in this configuration. This is really nice. And I love what the armor does. I've always felt that Mossman was a little plain in his base form, but I think this is the best way to go. Very cool. And I think it does a lot to give the Origins version of Mossman his own identity. And that's going to be very important for future generations of Masters, because if you look back, Classics did some things that gave it its own identity, and Origins is needing to do some of those things as well. And those things, you know, we might see carry forward into the future. You never know. Definitely time for some comparisons with this guy. Like I said, I do not have the retro original because, well, you know, like I said, I didn't collect those. I was too young. Don't judge me for my youth and beauty. I'm 35 years old. Definitely the first comparison to do, in my opinion, is Mossman from Classics. And I've always loved this Mossman figure. I have him with his 2000X kind of styled gear as much as I can get there, because I feel like he looks best this way, and he's a lot more, it gives him more character and more pizzazz, just like the yellow armor does over here. It kind of does surprise me a little bit just how much darker the flocking is on this Mossman than this Mossman. This one definitely has more of, you know, that brightness to it, and this one is a lot darker. And the truth is, I think that the original, from pictures I've seen, lies somewhere in between these two colors. But hey, you know, I think that bright green goes a long way with those new friendly, kind eyes that Mossman has. Love it. And then, of course, we're also going to compare the Masterverse version. Now, this isn't a new Eternia figure or anything like that. This is instead meant to replicate poor Mossman's brief appearance in the beginning of Masters Universe Revelation. I don't want to spoil anything for the show. I know that there's a new Mossman figure from the CGI Netflix series, but at the time of recording for this video, he may as well just have been canceled because, you know, sure enough, he did release, but the numbers are so sparse for that figure, and the eBay auctions are just out of control for him. I don't think I'll ever own that figure unless there's some kind of clearance dump, which could happen. That could definitely be a thing at some point in the future. But, you know, it looked really nice, and it's a shame that it wasn't made available, but the show has ended, so they've definitely canceled out all that product. And then, of course, I feel like it would be a better comparison if I took his armor off, and this way we more or less have him in his standard look. And I feel like these are really cool together. Yeah, definitely. Just like in the show. All right, so there's definitely some unresolved business that we need to get around to, and that's smelling this figure. That's right. Masters of the Universe, very much renowned for having figures that smell like things. First of all, I'm going to take a whiff of the old classics version of old Mossy here. And he has kind of a, you know, the scent is still there after all these years, which I'm impressed by. It's kind of a more, I don't know, it's a darker kind of pine scent. And I don't believe that this one smells like anything. I mean, I don't know. I think at this point my nose is just playing tricks on me because the other Mossmen around, but I'm pretty sure that he was not scented. And this one, though, has a very strong pine smell. And it's a little more minty than what I was expecting, honestly. And so it is very much a pine smell, but it's got a little bit of mint chasing it right there. And it's very pleasant, actually. At first, I wasn't expecting the mint and didn't really know what to think, but it is very nice. I think that right now what you would need to do is maybe go out and buy, like, 20 of these guys and put them in a room, as an air freshener. I don't know. Seriously, though, it's nice. It's a pleasant smell, and they've done a good job making a nice pine scent for the figure. I thought, hey, wouldn't this be fun to see what this would look like? Just like in the olden days of the accessory packs, when you could switch out the stuff that your Masters figures were wearing. Here he is, the original Beastman, with the yellow stuff on. So I think it looks, pretty cool. It's definitely not something I would consider as something that I would have on him all the time or in my display. But it's certainly cool to get that option. And I don't care to admit it at all, but I actually think that the Beastman armor in the reddish brown actually looks better than the yellow version on Mossman here. It just looks cool. Starting to really look like a different character now. I like that. Here's a fun little switcheroo for you. We have, he's starting to be in Christmas colors now with the red and the green. I don't know, this is Mossman at the rave, maybe right here. They painted him up. And here's that time that Beastman ate the wrong Eternian mushrooms in his stew. But no, in all seriousness, here's an idea of what a new release of Beastman with that more retro-y head might actually look like. And with a little color correction here, I think I'll help us a little bit. I think it's a good look for the figure. And hopefully they'll do that. Maybe even with some flocking. That would be cool. Here's Mossman wearing the satchel he came with in the Classics version. Now, if they really wanted to impress me for this $40 Origins figure, they honestly should have just included this satchel. If they still had the tooling lying around, they could have easily just put this on the figure because, look, it fits perfectly, like a lot of Classics accessories. Sometimes I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of hubris there, and I'm not judging them for it because I think that as professionals and artists, you don't want to lean on the past, especially something that sometimes can overshadow what you're trying to do. So no, I'm not trying to be judgmental there, but I am saying that there might be a little bit of I don't know, a need to get away from Classics just a little bit and away from the legacy of the Horseman. And that's a shame because you could have had this ready-made accessory that probably would have really enhanced your overall reception of the figure. At least the visual would have been a little nicer with this. So it's a real shame that this didn't make it into the set because it was done. And speaking of modular accessories that they could have reused from previous figures, they honestly could have just taken the hand attachment that came with the Revelation version in Masterverse and just included it here. As we know, Mattel does make sure that even the hands are switchable between the Masterverse figures and the Origins ones. And look how well it works here. It's in there really well, and the hinge is fully operational. However, the good news is, if you have that figure, you can totally use that accessory. The arm, it's kind of hard to hold it up because it's so heavy, it eventually comes down like that. But it's still pretty decent, and I think it would look great for posing. Yes, I think now I have my idea for a clickbaity thumbnail. But yeah, it's a real shame because I think all they would have had to have done is repainted this part to a little bit lighter green, and it would have been it would have seemed like they just made it for this. So I don't think Mattel is being quite creative enough lately with some of the ways that they could get more value for less money out of this stuff. And call me, Mattel. I'll help you out. You can contact me on Twitter and at fanboysforever@hotmail.com. I'll help you. That's mine, you know. Oh, oh. All right, so final thoughts. You are getting this head. You are getting this armor. You are getting an extra mace accessory. And you're getting the 2 bicep guards right there. Getting the nice window box packaging. And you're also getting the bent mini comic. I mean, hey, it's, you know, I've seen worse, but still, it's pretty rough. And yeah, you're getting an alternate hand. But here's the real question, though. Is all of this worth $40? I don't think so, no. I believe that the sweet spot for this guy would have been $30, and on the high end, $35. It's really hard to believe that they've went for 4 tens on this guy, like $39, 90 something, and that's a real shame. I think that probably a lot of the cost has to do with the flocking. Probably the specialized processes to get that done have increased the price quite a ways. I think a little while back the brand team or someone had said something along the lines of that anytime there's a figure with rooted hair like Grizzlor or a figure with flocking like Mossman, it will always have to be some kind of retailer exclusive. Chances are what they mean by that is somehow or another the retailer partnering with them will offset some of the costs of having to do those specialized processes. But I feel like here that the correct price, the reasonable price, would have probably been $32 or $33. And I feel like that was the right price point. As it stands, or doesn't stand, so what they're asking for is the same price as with the Talon Fighter and the Point Dread attachment and, you know, the switch out accessories. And that seems funny to me. I just feel like that asking $40 and looking at on one end you get this big ship and this little play area connection for Castle Grayskull and little base. I mean, that's one thing, but this is a figure with a couple of extra accessories, and that's another. So I don't see the value equivalency there. I suppose that it is the flocking. However they managed to do it, I'm glad that they got it. $40 for this guy is no big deal to me because Masters is my #1 brand. But I know that a lot of people watching this channel, the #1s may be Transformers or G.I. Joe or something like that. And yes, G.I. Joe is a close second for me, but Masters is still #1. So I don't know, it's a little weird. Can't endorse the price, no. I do like the figure a lot though. There's nothing wrong with that figure. It's just the price, it's just kind of outrageous. And this leads me to my next point, that on top of that price being a little more than I think it should be, this is also a retailer exclusive. It bites. Everybody knows how bad it is to try to get a hold of Walmart retailer exclusives. I would probably caution you about paying a whole lot for this guy in the secondary market, and I would encourage some patience here to think back to Target retailer exclusives like that Keldor set with him and Cronus. I really do think you'll be able to get a hold of this guy. It may take a little while, but I think you will. Make sure you're using the Walmart app. That's how I found this guy. And make sure you're setting it to different stores and then saying that you want store pickup and then searching for Origins Mossman. If the figure is in stock there, it'll pop up. Try to get them to secure it for you for store pickup like I did with this guy. And it worked out really well for me, and hopefully that same strategy will work well for you. Usually, somehow or another, store pickup has been the key to me getting these guys a little bit earlier than some. So that's my piece of advice for you. All right, friends, if you've enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like the video and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. That always really helps, and we sure do appreciate it. And of course, Be sure to comment down below. Let me know, out of all the Moss Man figures that have come out so far, is this the one for you? Were you disappointed by him? Was the head sculpt a little different than you thought it should be? Is the price reasonable to you or not? Let me know down below, and I can't wait to hear all of your views. And as always, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out. Ooh. Just like in the show.